2 of the relationship series. Your relationship with yourself is the foundation of all the other relationships that you have in your life. And it's not until you open up to the truth and allow yourself to give it to yourself that you will be able to have that in any other relationship. So, I'm supposed to give some steps or some shit on how to love yourself. So here's the first one. Are you even fucking ready? Because if you're not, you can't force it. You need to just continue living your life the way you are, and you'll know when you're ready. Because it's not a place to get to. It's not a destination you finally arrive at. Self-love. It's a journey. And like in Alice in Wonderland, falling into the rabbit hole is just the start. It gets a lot deeper from there. But the choices that you make in regards to yourself and your self-love and the relationship that you have with yourself, the choices that you make are what then deepens it. And if you continue to be honest with yourself, your self-love will always grow. It will flourish into things that you couldn't even possibly imagine right now, which will then flourish all the other relationships that you have in your life in ways that you can't imagine either. So if you're not ready, that's okay. You can't force it. It's not real, and that's not honest, and that's certainly not self-loving. But when you're ready, you'll know. You'll know it's time to take the journey home, back home to yourself. We were born loving ourselves. We just learned how to put a whole lot of layers on top of it so that we can't see it anymore and we can't feel it. And it's a journey and it takes work in order to come back home. But nobody has the directions for you. I can give you these steps and bullshit and talk about it all day long, but nobody really knows the road back home to themselves except through themselves. And what a beautiful, ironic place to be. So, step 2 is if you are ready, then starts the work. You gotta be honest with yourself. Fully, completely honest. You have to stop lying to yourself. And it's not gonna come all at once overnight, believe me. Because I'm a very all or nothing type of person. And as much as sometimes I would like to just pound it all out in one day or do this and do that, it's never gonna happen that way. And I would be lying to myself if I kept trying to force it to be that way. So you have to take the little pieces of honesty that you can give yourself lovingly. Because there are some times that there's honesties that you are not ready for, and you're certainly not ready to give them to yourself. Because sometimes it's one thing if other people give you an honesty, and you can kind of take it as a separate thing outside of you. But when it comes to self-love and giving honesty to yourself, you gotta know that you're ready. However, also a beautiful thing, you wouldn't be able to tell yourself the honesty if you weren't ready. So, that's a good indication of whether you are or not. So step 2 is be honest with yourself. Do you enjoy your job? Do you enjoy your spouse? Do you enjoy your children? Do you enjoy the way you look at yourself in the mirror? Do you enjoy the way that people talk to you? Do you enjoy the way that you make yourself feel? Because the whole point of self-love is to come from a place of love. And love, although we've been conditioned to think, love is pure. True, actual love is pure. That doesn't mean it's a pushover. It is strong, hopeful, and joyous, always. Now, that doesn't always mean you will feel always self-loving. But when you don't feel self-loving is when the true day-to-day work comes in. Minute-to-minute work sometimes. That's when it comes in. So, if there are times that the way that people talk to you make you feel unloving of yourself, aid you to feeling less than, you feel like you just don't feel joy when this person or that person or these people talk to you, then that step of self-love, and this is just an example, but that step of self-love then would be to speak it. Hey, I don't feel love through this interaction, through this conversation. So I am going to remove myself from the unloving situation, from the unloving conversation, from the unloving tone of voice, from the unloving people, from the unloving space. I'm going to remove myself from it. And sometimes you have to remove yourself from it long enough. And it doesn't always mean a physical removal. Sometimes it's an emotional detachment. Sometimes it is a mental detachment. Sometimes it is a physical detachment, especially in circumstances of abuse or such like that. Then that is probably an example where you definitely would need a physical distance. Because then when you create that distance, you show yourself love by doing that. You allow yourself to know, hey, other people might not, but I have your back. And I promise that I'll continue to have it. And it's a practice. You have to practice it. And sometimes you might get tired of the practice. Sometimes you might slip back into old ways or old mind frames or old thoughts of thinking. And that's fine. And the way to handle that in a self-loving way is to say, hey, you're looking in a different direction now. And maybe truly ask yourself and be honest. Is this now the direction we're going? If so, that's fine. Because if it's a conscious choice and a healthy choice and a joyous choice for you, then that is loving. I think there are a lot of times that we confuse what love is, especially self-love. We get it confused with fear. We get it confused with all things that are embodied in fear. Anger, jealousy, rage, frustration, envy, coping, having to deal with. That's not it. That's not love. Love is boundless and infinite. Love is always open, never harsh. I mean, I don't know what you believe, but there are parts of the Bible that are pretty damn accurate that I don't think have been manipulated enough to be inaccurate. And kind of the love section of what love is, I think it's in Corinthians or something, is right. Love is fair. And to self-love, you have to be fair to yourself. Is putting myself in this situation, in this environment, with these people, in this instance, in this moment, does it feel like I'm loving myself? Because if not, then you're not. It's a simple thing. But it takes practice to peel off the layers that we've put on top of it. And so like step 3, I guess, would just be evaluate and reevaluate, analyze and reanalyze of what feels like love. And that takes a whole ridiculous amount of awareness. Because when you're on a self-love journey, you have to have a large level of honest awareness with yourself and be authentic about it. Truly know that sometimes when you all speak to me, it doesn't bother me, and you can talk to me in this tone of voice. Like, use your boss or something for an example. When you talk to me in this tone of voice and it kind of makes me feel belittled, sometimes it doesn't bother me, and I'm fine. I go about my day. I can brush it off, easy peasy, lemon breezy. And then sometimes it hits me right in my soul, and sometimes it makes me want to cry. Sometimes it makes me want to die. And you know what? I'm not going to do that to myself. And those are the times that when you're practicing self-love, in that moment, say, hey, normally it doesn't really bother me, but like I feel belittled by your tone of voice, or I feel inadequate by your tone of voice. I feel demeaned. I feel betrayed. I feel blah, 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 blah. Start recognizing what you are feeling. And if it's not love, if it's not joy, if it's not openness, if it's not from a pure potential place, then it's probably not love. And if you keep allowing it to get given to you, then you're not being loving to yourself. So analyze, reanalyze, readjust, move this way, move that way. Maybe your boss comes in at 7 o'clock and you usually always came in at 7:15, so you two were the only ones there, and they always came to you and said, hey, blah, 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 blah. But really, your workday doesn't start till 7:30, so you don't really have to come in 15 minutes early, and you were just doing it so that you could appease your boss and hope that they will stop talking to you in a condescending manner. And this is an example, like, please blow this up and use it for whatever circumstance comes. So then maybe you arrive at 7:15 because that is your normal routine and it helps you feel joy to do that. But you sit in your car. You sit in your car until 7:25, until 2 other people walk in before you and they get rah-rahed at. And you know that when 7:30 rolls around, your boss is already in their office, door shut, door open, just they don't come out anytime soon or whatever. So then you walk in at 7:25 so that you don't get the brunt of blah, blah, blah. And then say you walk in at 7:25 and for some reason your boss decides to come out of their office, comes around the corner and says, hey, why weren't you in the office at 7:15 like you normally are? I'm taking care of myself. And the way that you speak to me, you have to start standing up for yourself. The way that you speak to me makes me feel belittled. And I don't like it. And I'm not going to allow it to happen anymore. Now, some people might say, ooh, if I said that to my boss, I'd lose my job. Well, then fucking good. Shouldn't have that job. As for people who don't love themselves. As for people who don't care. And that's not true because everybody needs to love themselves. But there are some people who aren't ready for that. And there are some people who will be totally fine and always brush it off. Maybe that job is for those people. But it sure as hell ain't for you. And, like, of course, that's just an example. But I'm saying, like, self-love and the journey towards it is sometimes uncomfortable. Sometimes you might have to make life-altering, life-shifting, life-changing decisions. But you better fucking do it. Because if you don't, then you just showed yourself, hey, I don't have your back, actually. I really kind of need this money. And that's what we're going to focus on first. No, baby. Let me tell you. The more love you show yourself, the ridiculously easier it gets to have your basic necessities like money, other relationships, this and that. Your self-love is the foundation of all the other relationships in your life. With your boss, with your children, with your spouse, with your girlfriends, with your boyfriends, with your parents, with anybody who you ever come across in your entire existence. And if you don't have your back, they won't either. Because you've showed them that it's okay not to have my back. So, I don't really know much more that I can say because, like I said, it's kind of a individual type of journey. But those are some steps that if you didn't know what to do, then maybe now you do. Maybe have a little bit more clarity now as to how you can go about loving yourself. And so maybe if you need to, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and get really quiet. I want you to feel like what complete and total loving infinite freedom would feel like, where you are free to love yourself, you are free to love others, and you've showed them how to love you in the ways that make you feel loved and how to be joyous while doing it. I want you to close your eyes and truly dig in yourself. Feel what that would feel like. And hold on to it so deep and tight in your heart. And that is what your journey works towards. And anything that doesn't feel like that needs to get shifted. A different choice needs to be made. And it takes practice. You're not gonna get it the first day. You're not gonna get it the first month, year. But you will make small little choices and changes that will start auto-correcting the shift to where it aligns with the infinite, unbounded feeling of pure love. And that's really all that matters from there, honestly. And then it gets a lot deeper from there, and it kind of like, are you being honest with yourself? Like, you have to call yourself out on your own bullshit and blah, 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 like, blah, blah, blah. And so I can honestly very much do a video on that also. But for those who are just now starting on the journey of self-love, notice if you're ready or not. Be brutally honest with yourself. I don't mean brutally as in harsh. I mean brutally as in unconditionally. And then just reevaluate, re-examine, readjust, auto-shift, auto-shift, auto-shift. So anyway, I hope you have a wonderful day. Yes, I've been crying. The journey of self-love is a beautiful thing. Because then when it does start to spill over to your other relationships, you can really like, oh wow. Wow. What a glorious thing it is. We've been told it's selfish to put ourselves first, but really, that's when you come from a fear-based selfishness. Love isn't selfish. Because what you give to yourself, you have to give to others. Your cup has to be full in order to pour into anything. So, like, comment, and subscribe. Have a wonderful day.